Hi everyone, Jennifer Blevins-Smith with Integral Clinic Solutions, and you're watching my YouTube channel, Navigating the Business of Medicine. Today I want to talk about the ins and outs of obtaining a DEA license. This can be a little bit of a stressful point for providers of trying to figure out how to get a DEA license, if they need a DEA license, etc. So today's video is just going to help them out by providing a very high-level overview of who, what, when, where, how. Let's start with what is a DEA license. The DEA license, or Drug Enforcement Agency license, is for any medical provider who prescribes controlled substances. And we all know that there's various levels of controlled substances. There's C2s, C3s, but if it has a controlled definition next to it, you need a DEA license. So that means MDs, DOs, PAs, NPs, dentists, podiatrists, anybody who could be giving pain medicine or any kind of opioid or controlled medication, ADD, ADHD, so psychiatrists, they need DEA licenses, okay? Very straightforward, because the license actually gives you or the provider the authority to prescribe, administer, or dispense a controlled substance. It is federally regulated, okay? So it's issued by the Drug Enforcement Agency, which is the federal agency that you're familiar with. But you have to have a license for every state in which you would prescribe, right? So if you work on the border of two states and maybe you have clinics in one state and the other, you would need a DEA license from each state. So in Oregon, we're very close to the state of Washington, depending on where you're at in Oregon, Portland metro area is. And let's say you have a clinic that you could work in Washington and you have one in Oregon. So you're gonna need a DEA license issued to you in the state of Washington and in the state of Oregon. Testosterone is considered a controlled substance. So if you're like, oh, I don't give pain meds, I don't do ADD, ADHD meds, I don't do any of that, but you give testosterone or you prescribe testosterone to patients, you would still need a DEA license, okay? This is also true if you perform telemedicine services across state lines. And let's say you're a mental health provider and you prescribe and you are located physically in one state, but you have patients that are located in other states. You are crossing state lines, and so you would need a DEA license in every state in which you would see a patient and prescribe a medication that is controlled, okay? So you might be in Oregon physically, but you see a patient all the way in New York. You would need a New York DEA license if you're prescribing any controlled medications there. You do not need a DEA license if you're not prescribing any controlled substances. However, you might be surprised of what medications are considered controlled, because again, there's different levels. So you would want to review the medications that you could be prescribing and get a license just in case if it says it's controlled, because you never know when you might need to prescribe it to a patient, okay? So let's see here. How do you apply for a DEA license? Well, with the convenience of technology now, there's no more printing the application and hand completing it and sending it in. You can actually do it on the portal, the DEA Diversion Control portal. But note that you must have an active license in that state to practice medicine before you can apply for the DEA license. So if you practice in Oregon, you have an Oregon valid license for practicing medicine, then you can go ahead and move forward with applying for your DEA license in Oregon. But if you're still waiting on your license to be completed in Washington, you have to wait until you receive your valid Washington license to practice medicine before you can apply for your DEA license. So just know that you always need your license renewed, or you need a license in that state before you can apply for the DEA license. But You log into the portal, you fill out the information they need. Of course, they're going to need proof of your licensure. So you'll probably have to upload proof of your license, which you can get from your governing board body online. And then you pay the fee. Right here, it tells me that the fee is $888, 888, for a 3-year term. But you'll need to verify that rate. It could be going up soon. I don't know. But as of right now, when I collected the data, $888 for 3 years that the license is good. And it usually takes 4 to 6 weeks, it says, for you to process after your request and for them to tell you, yes, here you go. Either you're issued a new one or you're renewed. So definitely don't wait till the last minute, 4 to 6 weeks. That's kind of a long time. You want to make sure that you are staying on top of that. Okay. You will not be able to prescribe controlled medications until you actually have been issued a valid and current DEA license. So just because it's under processing or they tell you it's in the mail on its way, unless you actually have that DEA license number and expiration, you should not be prescribing medication. And just a little tip, you should be keeping a digital PDF copy of your certification in a secure folder on your computer, and then maybe backing it up to an external hard drive. And I always liked paper, so I always printed a copy too and had it on hand just in case maybe the power went out and I needed it or something. I don't know, but I still am old school and like paper and a lot of things. So I would have a backup for that. You do have to renew every 3 years. So you want to make sure that you're tracking this closely or your office manager's tracking it closely. The DEA will send you reminders as early as 60 days before it expires. And then they'll send you a reminder at 30 days, 15 days, and 5 days before expiration. But they don't give you any leniency in this. So you have to renew it before it expires or you're going to be in some deep doo-doo if you're trying to prescribe medication and it's expired. They're not going to give you any kind of cushion. So be very proactive and monitor it on a calendar, a shared calendar, so multiple people can help you. But as soon as you get that 60-day renewal reminder, I would recommend just submitting for that renewal. Never hurts, right? Just be very organized. The newest requirement for getting a DEA license is actually a one-time only, 8-hour MATE or MATE training that you have to undergo. So basically under the MATE Act, MATE Act, all clinicians who prescribe controlled substances must complete a one-time 8-hour training on opioid and substance use disorder management because it's become such a crisis, right? So there are a lot of places that are offering classes that fulfill this requirement. Again, it's a one-time only. You don't have to do it every time you renew, but this requirement went into effect in 2023. So there is a possibility that you haven't had to renew yet if you renewed before this became a requirement. So when you're coming up on your next renewal, you will have to do it. I'm going to do another video specific to the training. So look out for that if you have more questions about it. And you want to make sure that you're staying compliant with it. You just attest that you did the 8-hour training. So they're going off your word of mouth and they're trusting you. But you want to make sure that you're keeping your DEA certificate secure, that you're keeping that number secure. A lot of people will forge it. It's getting harder because of some of the new requirements for prescribing controlled medications. However, we know there are geniuses out there that are finding ways around it. So make sure that you're keeping your DEA certificate very secure but accessible. You want to make sure that you're tracking controlled substance prescriptions in your EHR. It's the easiest way to do it to see how often patients are being prescribed certain medications and if they're actually taking it or if they're not. If you stop practicing in a state, this is very important, you need to cancel your old DEA registration. So if you move out of the state of Oregon and you have a DEA license and you don't plan on prescribing any controlled substances for anybody in Oregon after you move, cancel it. It just is a lot better. It doesn't keep you out there for any kind of high risk people to hack into it, use it, things like that. And then for telemedicine, always follow both state laws and DEA requirements depending on where that patient is located, okay? So where you're located, where the patient's located, and then your federal requirements through the DEA. A lot of people forget about that with the telemedicine, so just something to remember. Don't make the assumption that one license covers all states, because it doesn't. I hope you already understand that from what I've talked about. And now that we've gone through the requirements and how to obtain it, I'm hoping you're feeling like it's not as big of a challenge as maybe it seems in the beginning. I know it's like DEA, it's kind of scary, it's kind of intimidating, you're not quite sure where to start, but you just need to start with the state in which you're going to be prescribing. If you're prescribing any controlled medications, there's a portal you can go onto. You must have a valid state license in order to apply for that state's DEA. Complete your 8-hour one-time training, and you should be good to go once you pay that fee. But give yourself 4 to 6 weeks for processing time when it comes to initiating a new license, and try to renew your DEA license at least 30 days in advance from expiration. If not, 60 days is my recommendation. If you have any questions or comments about this, please leave that in the comments below. Smash the thumbs up button if today's video was helpful. Subscribe to my channel if you have not already, and please share this with your colleagues whom you feel would benefit from the information. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.